Karen from Countyfairgrounds USA, countyfairgrounds.net. Welcome to today's podcast.
Do I have Danny Weil on the phone with me?
Yes, you do.
Hi, Mr. Danny. What are you doing these days?
Well, just sitting down here in Florida waiting for everything to start back going again so we can go out and entertain some folks. The Wall of Death is a carnival thrill show, carnival entertainment, started right here in the United States 100 years ago. There's actually dispute as to whether or not the first Wall of Death was spotted on Coney Island or in San Francisco. We always thought it was Coney Island. Now lately somebody's come up with evidence of one in San Francisco in about 1915. And it started with, you want me to just tell you the story?
Tell us the story.
You know, obviously the first time anybody ever raced two motorcycles was probably real shortly after the second motorcycle was built. It all started around the same time as the cars came out, you know, right after the turn of the 20th century. And one of the biggest spectator sports in the United States was called board track racing. And this was where they had these wooden oval tracks. Some of them were as much as a half a mile or larger in diameter, and every major city in the country had them. Dallas, Chicago, Atlanta, New York. And it was motorcycle racing, and it was wide open. They were doing 100 miles an hour on motorcycles with no brakes, steep banked walls, and it was very dangerous. And just like it was the NASCAR of today. You can actually, there's some video that's actually turned up now where you can actually watch these guys doing this. It was extremely dangerous, as you could imagine. And there was an incident that happened, I believe it was in Indianapolis, I'm not sure. All the factories, Harley factory had racers, Indian factory had racers, Excelsior, the manufacturers of the day. There was an accident where some people came over the top, people got hurt, and it just pretty much ended. They were called motordromes, and then they started calling them murder drones because it was blood sport, just like NASCAR, and that's what brought the people out. Well, when this ended, the guys that were doing this didn't want to sit around twiddling their thumbs, so they designed a small portable board track, which had actually slightly slanted walls, and they started going to the carnivals. And very shortly after that, by about 1915, they turned into what we use today, which is a straight side. It's called a silo motordrome. If you can imagine a wooden silo, 30 feet in diameter, 14 feet tall, and you stand at the top and look down, and we ride motorcycles around that silo. You could stick your hand out, and we could come by and high-five you as we come by on the wall. On a straight up and down wall, just as straight up and down as the walls in your house. And it heydayed, actually, prior to World War II. They say there was 100 of these traveling the country, one on every carnival, midway, and fairground. It pretty much started petering out in the 60s. By the 70s, there was just a couple of shows hanging on. By the late 70s, early 80s, it had pretty much been pigeonholed into motorcycle events, and there was only maybe 2 Wall of Death shows, down from 100 at the heyday. When I got involved, when I started watching it for entertainment in the mid-'80s, I believe there was probably only 2 of them out there, and they were both doing motorcycle events, and it was fantastic entertainment. Thankfully, it didn't die away. I got involved with it. I've been a fan since the mid-'80s. When I was 25 years old, I got involved with it in 2001 when I met some people on a show. My love for antique motorcycles allowed me to be able to get involved with them by working on their motorcycles. And one thing led to another. And in 2012, I was invited to come out and be in the show and work with these guys and live on the road. And we were doing motorcycle events. That's what they were doing. That's what the Wall of Death had got pigeonholed into. I really loved it. I knew I'd found my calling, but I wanted to take it to the fairs and the carnivals because I really felt that's where it belonged. About 5 years ago, I decided I was going to build my own show, and some friends helped, and we came here to the house, and we built an absolutely beautiful motordrome, got a semi-truck and a trailer, and I decided when I first built it, I was taking it back to the fairs and the carnivals. And it took a little while, pounding on some doors, paying some dues, doing a couple motorcycle shows here and there. And now we've got to where if we were out this year, we're not because obviously of the coronavirus. I have the most fantastic schedule performing at fairs and carnivals, mostly on the East Coast. And that's what we've been doing for the last 3 years. We've been taking this vintage carnival entertainment back out to the fairs and carnivals where it started and where it belongs. And it's being very well received.
Okay. So let me ask you this question. How many shows a day do you usually do?
Usually we'll do 6-7 shows a day. You know, we can go more than that. We can go less than that. It depends on the crowds. We can put about 120 people upstairs, depending on how big they are. If they're little kids, we can put more up there. You know, I mean, most of the time when we contract anywhere from 6 to 8 shows a day.
And then, are you self-contained? I would imagine you bring everything with you, right?
Yep, we're completely self-contained. We show up on the spot. We have, we have a requirement for how much space we need and how much electricity we need, and we're right there. We fit in our little footprint. Our truck that hauls the equipment. We have a house crew quarter we carry with us, show office. We set up. We're self-contained. That's the way that works.
How many motorcycles do you have that do this, and what kind are they?
We use antique Harley Davidson motorcycles, antique Indian motorcycles. We got a vintage Honda dirt bike from the 70s. We got a little go-kart, a four-wheeled go-kart, just your average hardware store Briggs & Stratton go-kart. We have a motorcycle out front, 1940. Let me do the math. That would be an 80-year-old motorcycle out front. And we have a set of rollers out there, which allows us to ride this motorcycle on the front and do a little pre-show when we're gathering our crowd to come inside and do our show. We'll put 2 motorcycles or a motorcycle and a go-kart on the wall at the same time. So just imagine this. You're standing at the top of a silo. There's a shelf like armrest. You're leaning on this shelf. It's a round circle. You're looking down into this circle. And about 3 or 4 feet below you, some nuts riding around on the wall on a motorcycle or a go-kart, smiling at you as he goes by. It's G-rated. I mean, we literally, when we started going out to the fairs, I didn't know what was going to happen. We have, not a day goes by we're at the fairs, and we do some pretty good fairs, big, I would say major fairs in the eastern United States. We probably hear a couple dozen times a day. That's the best entertainment at the fair. Not a day goes by that we don't have people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 80s come up and say, you know, I didn't think this still existed. My father brought me to see it when I was a kid. We were surprised to see you here. We're coming back to the fair tomorrow, and we're bringing our children and grandchildren to show this to them. We hear that every day at the fair. We had a guy at a fair. I don't know if I can say the name of the fair. We had a guy at a fair last year who was on oxygen. He was probably 90 years old. He came up and down those stairs a half a dozen times to watch the show. He couldn't get enough. And then he brought somebody back to the fair. He came back to the fair the next day. We've had people actually get emotional standing there on the front of our valley because it reminded them of something that they enjoyed when they were children, and they just didn't think it still existed. And it does. We're keeping it alive, and we're doing it at the fairs and the carnivals where it belongs.
I see you have some women doing this too?
We have had women riders in the past. You know, the toughest part about working on a traveling show, as you can imagine, is living on the road. Everybody thinks they can live on the road, but when you're out there living on the road, it's a little different than talking about it or wanting to do it. And we've had women in the past. We had one with us last year. We'd bring another one out there too. You know, it's when you got a pretty girl smiling on the front, it's good for business and it's good for the show. Women have done it. If you look at the history of the Wall of Death, fantastic women wall riders all through the 20s, 30s, 40s. The reason I'm involved in this personally is because of a woman wall rider in the United States who's no longer with us, who got me involved with this. So yeah, it's family friendly, G-rated. Boys and girls do it. We currently have a guy 70 years old riding with us right now. He's been doing it for 35 years. He's the oldest performing Wall of Death rider in the world. He can't stop doing it. It's very rewarding.
Have to ask, you call it the Wall of Death. Okay. So have you had any major accidents?
I mean, you know, the wall of broken elbows and wrists just doesn't have the same ring to it. It's been called the Wall of Death for a long time. It's also been called the Thrill Arena. I prefer to call it the Thrill Arena. The woman who got me involved in it called it the Thrill Arena. It just seems more family friendly. I mean, we call it the Wall of Death on the internet because that's what it's been called. I don't know that anybody's ever actually died doing it. I mean, it's real. See, here's the thing about it. People go to the fair and they ride the rides and they get an adrenaline rush. And there's a lot of stuff out there at the fair, especially back in the old days, that's really cool, but you always question it. You know, there's some stuff, especially back in the old days, we're more of a nostalgia trip now for people that come to the fair. But when the people are watching our show, for the 15 or 20 minutes that we've got them up there, they know it's real. There is no doubt about it. This is real. These guys are doing something that is exciting and dangerous, and we're here watching it. You can get hurt. That also weeds some people out. They think they want to do it, and then when they get in there and we start training them, and they realize, I could actually get hurt doing this. And you know, yeah, it's a reality check for some people who don't. You know, I was not an easy learner. I had a passion for it. Part of the reason that, you know, people that do shows and carnival stuff and show stuff, there is some unwritten rules. You have to earn your respect and so forth. And part of the reason that I was able to earn the respect for the people I was with is because I kept hitting the floor and I wouldn't give up. You know, I wasn't a natural. I've trained people now. I've actually taught several people how to ride the wall. They've never hit the floor. You know, everybody's a little bit different. So as far as dying, no, I don't think so. You know, it would be really rough to die like one toe or elbow at a time. That would be catastrophic.
Okay, Danny, what did you do before you did this? I'm curious.
First, I was an auto mechanic, and then it grew into tool and die work, plastic injection molds, machine shop type work, and always played with the antique motorcycles on the side. I still do a little machine shop work in the wintertime when we come home. I'm kind of doing some right now because we're not out on the road where we're supposed to be, you know. So that's what I am. I'm a machinist, tool and die work, I guess. I'm a real champion of the trades. I think young people need to learn trades. It's, you know, you go on Craigslist today and look at the help wanted ads. There's plenty of them in there for skilled trades. It's a good thing for kids to learn. I'd love to teach a kid a trade someday. So that's what I do when I'm not out on the carnival. I was the first time I rode a motorcycle on the Wall of Death, I was 54 years old. And yeah, I was a late bloomer. I found out where I was supposed to be late in life. And we've got a couple of young kids, and I feel so bad for them now because, you know, they're so excited. It's hard to get them that are excited. These kids are excited about coming out. They're going to be good with us. And then we just got the rug pulled out from under us. Yeah, right.
Right.
So
unfortunately, that might be around for a little while.
Yeah, I don't anticipate anything to happen this season. I mean, you know what it's going to do? It's going to make next season fantastic. I live in a tourist town, and people, 2 days ago, I went out by the beach, and it was a mob scene out there. People are dying to get out and do stuff, and I think what this is going to do is this is going to make next year fantastic.
Okay, so you've never been hurt yourself then?
Oh, I never said that. but that's not the part. Look, we can go. We do a 5-act show. We have 4 riders, 5-act show. We work 140, 150 days on a busy season, and we can go all season without a single slip up. Okay, that's the goal. The goal is to entertain people. You know, you're doing something that's dangerous, but you know, there's a lot, you know, the guys walking the high wire and the jugglers are doing stuff that's dangerous. You know, you wouldn't want a bowling pin to come down and hit you in the head. And it's the same thing with us. We take great pride in being safe, and we you know, hey, nobody's hit the floor yet this season.
What have been some of your best experiences, do you think?
The people that we meet out on the road. Like I said, I've had people my father's age literally get emotional, tears streaming down their face because they saw this in 1947 when they were 10 years old and they didn't think it still existed, and they brought their family back to the fair the next day. Who comes back to the fair? You know, we actually have the power to bring people back to the fair. The people that we meet is the most rewarding thing about it. We have little school kids that are out there on field trips. We play around with them. We have a lot of fun with them. we got a microphone in our hands. We let these little children up on the stage say, hey, you guys want to sing? And they come up there, and we stop the show. And we just let these little kids sing, we have fun with the people. That's why I wanted to take it from the motorcycle shows to the fairs and carnivals, because that's my favorite part about it. That and driving down the highway in the truck, listening to the Allman Brothers headed to the next spot. That's my favorite stuff.
That dates you a little bit, you know that.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm good with that. My wife and I are gypsies. We like to travel. We got a beautiful home here in Florida that we enjoy coming to in the wintertime. We like living on the road. She spent years as a sailor sailing around the world. I've always done road trips every summer, so this has just been a really good opportunity for us. That's the best thing about it is seeing places that I've never seen, going places that I've never been, something like that. Willie said it, something like that. But that's the best part about it. We go to fairs, and I'll say again, like major fairs on the East Coast that have not let us leave the property without signing a contract to come back next year. Fair board director standing down in the middle of the motor drum with the microphone, talking to the people between acts and our show, and come back every day 2 or 3 times and bring all their buddies to see our show. That says a lot. And I am trying to sell myself because it's good stuff. But like I said, we hear multiple times every day, that was the best entertainment at the fair. And I take a lot of pride in that. We're professional show people, and we do what we say we're going to do, and we love getting out there.
So you do the East Coast. How far west have you gone? Do you know?
We've gone out to South Dakota and New Mexico. I'm not going to say we wouldn't go out west. Everything's just further apart out there. I mean, to do 4 or 5 county fairs in Arizona or New Mexico, that's, if I could take a season and go out west, or every season and go out west, if I could book 6 weeks worth of work out west, I would absolutely go out west. Who wouldn't? I mean, I know you're in Colorado. You can look out your window and see the Purple Mountains Majesty from Denver. Just about anywhere, It's tougher on the equipment. It's tougher on everything. We got to change our carburetors to work at the high elevations. I would love to come out west, very practical, but if we could book a month or 6 weeks or something out west, I'd be there in a heartbeat.
Have somebody listen to this and they say that, hey, you're really interested in this and they really want to do it. How do they get started?
One of my guys, Sergeant Mikey, said it best about 8 or 9 years ago. We were working. We were covered in grime. It was hot and sweaty, and everybody was ready to be done. And this kid came up and asked him that question, and Mikey looked at him and said, buy a motorcycle and follow us around.
That's cute.
That's kind of the way it works. We teach somebody, when you come out and work with us, it takes us 10 or 12 hours to set this thing up. All right? When we show up on a lot, it takes us, and we stretch that out to a couple of days, sometimes more if we got the time, sometimes less if we don't. But it takes us 10 or 12 hours work to set it up, 8 hours to put it back on the trailer. That's where everybody starts. Nobody rides the wall until they've up and down the building a few times, and then they sit in the ticket box, and then they sweep the motor dome. You don't want to put somebody in there on your equipment, your machinery, unless you think, they're going to stick around for a while. People get hooked. It's very rewarding work, as you probably hear all the time from entertainers. I'm 60 years old. I've only been an entertainer since I was 54. But it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life.
Right. It's nice to make people happy. Happy
Absolutely. Is good. So that's the level we deal with these people on. It's just fantastic, especially when you're in a place where the economy's horrible. There's not much going on there, but still they come out, and we do fairs in places where the economy's fantastic and everybody wants to be there, the whole range of them. And it doesn't matter. And it's so cool.
Do you have anything coming up that hasn't been canceled?
The first thing I have that hasn't been canceled is in New Jersey, about 30 miles from Atlantic City in mid-July, and I'm not counting on it.
So it looks like July and August, a lot of fairs will go on, okay?
That would be fantastic.
So, like all the Indiana fairs, and I've been spending time in there lately, they're all scheduled for July and August. But the thing of it is, the virus, ultraviolet light and the heat, it'll knock it down for a while.
But I'm ready to go out there. It's like you can't stop everything. If you can't stop everything, you just can't. So, yeah, we've got a carnival in New Jersey, which is really cool. It it's an Italian fest in this Italian town in New Jersey. We're like the only people there that aren't Italian. We set up across the street from a place called Cannoli World. It's really ridiculous. It's fantastic. And then after that, we've got an event in mid-New York, and we're supposed to have another event up in northern New York, a fair, the Clinton County Fair, and then we're supposed to have a fair in west central Pennsylvania, and then we're supposed to have a fair in North Carolina, and then we're supposed to be going back to a fair in Pennsylvania, so we'll see. I'd like to make enough money to pay my insurance this year. If I can make enough money this year just to pay the insurance bill, we are in the black and good to go and ready to rock and roll next year.
All right, so how do people reach you if they're interested in booking you?
They can get me on I have a website. That's how they reach me. laughingindian@msn.com. Wild Wheels Wall of Death on the internet, or laughingindian@msn.com. We would love to come to your fair. We've got fantastic references with what I would say are some major fairs in the eastern United States.
Okay, Danny. I've enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.